Every once in a while, you see members in the community do things and it motivates you to take action. In this particular instance, Limited Run Games teamed up with Retrobit to do 2000 limited edition Sega Saturn controllers, where a portion of the proceeds went to Game Pink, which is a part of the National Breast Cancer Foundation. This cool collaboration for a great cause motivated me to take action as well. So in this video, let's pick up one of these limited edition controllers, mod it, and donate the proceeds to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. With the controller in hand, the first thing to do is unbox it. Retrobit did a great job of really customizing the controller to fit the theme. They even went so far as to make the controller PCB red and the silicone pads under the buttons pink, which is a really cool and nice detail touch. Also included in the box is a co-branded Game Pink sticker and a thank you card. Overall, the presentation and packaging is quite nice, and I think they did a really nice job here. After having a bit of time to really digest and think about the design, I thought of a few mods that I would like to do to really deck this thing out. So let's start with what I don't want to change. I knew I didn't want to change the front half of the controller, specifically the front shell. I really like the clear pink plastic and the logo, and I don't want to modify that at all. Next, I turn my attention to the back half of the controller. I really love a pink and white combo in general, and I wanted to play off that a little bit more. While the National Breast Cancer Foundation colors are various shades of pink, they are typically set to a white background, so this made sense from a design standpoint, in my opinion. Next, I turn my attention to the buttons, and while I love the original Sega Saturn button colors, I thought white buttons and a white D-pad would look nice considering the overall theme and other modifications that we're doing to the back half of the shell. Now, fair warning, no Cheeto fingers while using this controller. Finally, I didn't want to stop with just custom aesthetics. I wanted to do some custom lighting effects as well, so I did a bit of work and designed up some custom PCBs. These PCBs are from PCBWay, who was kind enough to sponsor this video. I like doing my prototyping through PCBWay as I can get 10 boards for $5 plus the cost of shipping and 24-hour turnaround time. For more information on PCBWay, check the link in the description below. But more on what these PCBs do a little bit later on. For now, it's time for some molding and casting, but oh man, these things are always so difficult to put on. Alright, that's much better. So, I've done a bunch of videos that cover molding and casting. If you're looking for more detail on the process, including an in-depth guide, check out the card in the upper right hand corner. All materials used for the molding and casting process are included in the description below, including their respective Amazon links. Anyway, we're going to use some Smooth-On Moldstar 30 as our silicone. Moldstar 30 is a firm platinum-based silicone that's great for casting buttons and controller shells. The tedious part is getting the controller shell all done up in plastilina clay. It's a very time-consuming and tedious process. Did I say it was tedious? Because it took me almost 2 hours to get this one perfect. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this topic than I normally would in one of these videos, because I've realized I've never actually shown how to cast a shell before. So while I'm not going to get super deep into detail, I will show a little bit more of it here, so you get a better idea if you want to do it yourself. Okay, with the first half of the mold cured and complete, it's time to pour the second half of the mold. I have used this cut up Pampers box to be my mold box. Hashtag dad life. I have also applied plenty of mold release to the first half of the mold. Silicone doesn't stick to much, except for other silicone. So make sure if you're going to try something like this, you're applying plenty of mold release, so you don't end up with a silicone brick instead of a mold. One other thing you might notice is this is not the back to the limited edition Sega Saturn controller. This is just a back off another Retrobit controller. Now fortunately, they happen to use the same molds, which were Sega's molds previously. So this will work just fine for this application. With the shell complete, it's time to work our way onto the buttons. So I've made a custom mold box, and I've affixed my buttons to the mold box just using a little bit of super glue. And these are pretty easy to do. Just gonna get ready to go ahead and pour them. For the D-pad and for the shoulder buttons, I've used a little bit of plastilina clay to go ahead and prop them up and make them in a nice flat surface. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is I don't actually intend to cast custom buttons for the shoulder buttons. I intend to use the original buttons as I think they fit the overall aesthetic pretty well and they're going to match the start button nicely. With the molds all made, it's time to cast the buttons and the shell. As previously mentioned, we're going to go for a white theme here. But you know, white in and of itself is kind of boring. So let's spice it up a little bit. I'm going to add some of this glow in the dark powder to the mix. I really like using glow powder in these projects, as I can't be the only one who likes to game in the dark, right? All jokes aside, the use of glow powder will become more important in a few minutes. The last thing I wanted to point out is that I'm using straws in the sprues of the mold as it helps contain any overflow of resin, as well as provide extra resin when the pressure pot crushes down any bubbles in the mold. With the buttons and controller shell out of the way, I want to move on to the custom PCBs I made up. This is a custom LED mod that is controlled via a touch sensor. The idea is for the LEDs to illuminate the outside of the controller and light up your hands while playing. Now, the LEDs used in here are UV LEDs, and the beauty of using UV LEDs in conjunction with a controller shell back that is made from glow-in-the-dark powder is the UV LEDs will charge the glow powder very quickly, which means you can charge the glow shell even when you're gaming in the dark. Installation of this mod is really easy, and the quick solder board goes over the top of the pins which connect the controller cable to the controller PCB, and then 5 volts and ground get routed from the quick solder board to the 2 LED boards which sit on either end of the controller. The LED boards are affixed to the PCB via some double-sided tape, making installation overall very easy to do. Well, with all that heavy lifting out of the way, the only thing left to do is reassemble and test the controller. So when trying to figure out what console to use for this video, I figured this clear Derby Stallion controller would be absolutely perfect for the job. Anyway, with the controller plugged in, you can see when you use the touch sensor, it works absolutely perfectly. It turns on the LEDs, and those UV LEDs really do make your hands glow. And not only do they make your hands glow, but they charge up the glow powder in both the buttons and in the back shell as well. When you turn on the lights, you can see how nicely the shell and the buttons glow. While I realize this looks super bright here on camera, my camera is overexposing it a little bit, and it's not quite as bright in person. Not only does the controller absolutely look great, but it plays great too. And what better way to test it than with a little bit of Vampire Savior, my favorite fighting game for the Sega Saturn. Overall, this controller turned out absolutely awesome, and I really want to thank Limited Run Games and Retrobit for teaming up and creating this awesome controller. They also did a fantastic job of motivating me to do some good for a great cause. So with that being said, make sure you guys check this out on eBay. There's going to be a link in the description below. And if you like this video, make sure you give me a comment, like, and subscribe, and check out some of these videos here that I've picked out for you at the end, as I think you're going to like them. Anyway guys, I'll catch you for the next one here soon.